So today we'll have an introduction on Bhagavatam, and then we have some personalities that we'll discuss later on. So thank you very much, Srinambu. Very fortunate to have you with us. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you very much. Yep, actually I'm in Vrindavan, so I have good fortune multiplied several times being in Vrindavan and also having an opportunity to talk about Srimad Bhagavatam. So we'll begin with the invocation prayers, and then today would be an introduction, and this would be an interactive session. We could follow a format of my giving you the gist of the class in making several points and then allowing your input. And if some of you are hearing some background noise, please we apologize for this, because I'm in Bhakti Dham, which most of you from the UK know, and I think there are some repairs going on next door, and I can't quite control the noise. So apologies. Is it very bad, Mayapur Prabhu or Christina, or anyone? Is it disturbing?
No, it's good. It's not.
Okay, very good, very good. So basically, what we will do is we will have an interactive session, and the interactive session would be such that I will finish my presentation, and then we will leave around 20 minutes, or as per the program guidelines, we would allow a few minutes for Q&A. And during Q&A, just during Q&A, whoever is asking questions, you could unmute yourself, and then you could speak, and then you could just go on mute again. So this way, if there is any background noise, we would be able to prevent that from coming across the session. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to speak first, and then I'm going to cue you for Q&A, and then I think you could kind of look at who is asking questions, and then one by one you could do it. We could do it in any which way we want. So we'll take this. Again, this is our first session, and we're using Zoom, and we have quite a few participants. So I'm not really sure as to the technology aspect of it, because I'm also in Vrindavan. So if there are any interruptions, Mayapur Prabhu and Christina, who are organizing this, have already got backup. They will let you know, and I'm giving you my apologies in advance. There's wonderful to be in Vrindavan, but then we have internet issues and so on, which are a little bit mediocre. So I just want you to be aware that we could have some challenges, but I'm hoping we can overcome all of those. So we'll get started with the invocation prayers, and then we will get into today's discussion. Om Ajnanatimrandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Gurum Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Shinvatam Swakata Krishna Punyashravana Kirtana Hridayantos Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhritsutam. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Narasimhaya. Namaste Jase Aviravirbhava Vajranaka Vajranaka Vajradamshta Karmasayan. Randaya Randaya Tamograsa Grasa Om Swaha. Abhayam Abhayam Atmani Bhuishta Om Shraum. Namo Namo Aniruddhaya Hishikeshendriyatmane. Namah Paramahamsaya Purnaya Nibhatatmane. Swarga Pavarga Dvaraya Nityam Suchi Sade Namah. Namah Hiranyaviryaya Chaturhostraya Tantave. So the first thing that we would like to do before we begin any session on the introduction of Srimad Bhagavatam is to source the premise for the discussion from the Bhagavad Gita. We always need to go to the Bhagavad Gita and then come to the Bhagavatam. And when we speak on the Bhagavad Gita, we also draw from Bhagavatam. This was Srila Prabhupada's presentation. He used to draw from Srimad Bhagavatam while giving Bhagavad Gita classes. He also used to draw from Bhagavad Gita while giving Bhagavatam classes. So the verse that we are going to choose, which is most appropriate for the discussion, is in Bhagavad Gita, and it is chapter 4, and it is 4.9. I have spoken about this verse several times over, but it is most appropriate for us to touch upon this verse again. This verse is 4.9 of Bhagavad Gita. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo vetti tatvatah tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti so Arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. So what is significant about this verse is that Krishna is basically setting the stage to let us know as to what is the process for us to be able to approach him. What is it that we need to do for us to be able to approach him, and what is the process? So the word and the clue that's being given in this verse is in the second line of the verse. It is evam yo vetti tattvataha. He is saying you have to approach me through tattva. You need to understand my pastimes. You need to understand my appearance. You need to understand everything through the means of tattva. So one has to inquire as to what is tattva? What exactly is tattva? What is the consideration which he's talking about? So here he is talking about the absolute consideration. He is saying you have to understand me as the absolute truth. You need to approach me through the absolute platform, not the relative platform of the material world. The platform of the material world is very relative. We always try and make our assumptions and judgments based on various other categories. So in a comparative sense, something is better than this, or something is worse than a certain platform. What I'm trying to say is that we always have a comparison in the material world. It's relative. One person's view could be very different from someone else's view. You could agree on something and I could disagree because these are relative considerations, and there's no harm in being, in disagreeing. There really isn't any harm in disagreeing because this is the relative consideration. So the point is, everybody has their view, and that's the reason why in India, if you notice in ancient Vedic civilization, there have been so many philosophers. They've all presented their different views because there was freedom to present. And if there was a tinge of material energy involved in their presentations, it becomes relative. Relative truths are a part of the material paradigm. Absolute truth is a part of the spiritual paradigm. Now, why is tattva being mentioned again? Let's touch upon it, because there is a difference between understanding Krishna as God versus understanding Krishna as the absolute truth. There's a distinction between God and absolute truth. I'm not playing with words. I'm not playing with words. There is a difference between calling Krishna God versus calling Krishna the absolute truth, because there is a difference between the two. When we call and address Krishna as God, we are literally looking upon him in his capacity to maintain, to create, and to basically destroy. We are looking at the creator, we are looking at the maintainer, we are looking at the destroyer, the person who is basically the personality who is basically arranging things for us, in the material world in certain ways, maintaining the material creation, destroying it. So we are attributing this function of God as an authority who has capacity to maintain, create, and destroy. This is basically a function when we say that Krishna is God. If you look at it in the Christian paradigm, or even in Islam and other religions, even in Hinduism, you have this consideration of him being addressed as God, right? So, but then our acharyas have extended this. They are saying what we are going to discuss in Srimad Bhagavatam is beyond the topic of understanding Krishna as God. What we are going to discuss in Srimad Bhagavatam is beyond the general definition of Krishna as the God, the personality of God. Here, when we talk about Krishna as the absolute truth, we are actually addressing him as the summum bonum. He is basically going to be described and discussed as a person. We are going to understand his taste. We are going to understand what he would like to wear. We are going to understand the nature of those who are very close to him. We're going to understand what he does in different parts of the day. This is quite significant when we start talking about the absolute truth, and there's a distinction between calling Krishna God versus absolute truth. The Bhagavatam, the Srimad Bhagavatam, deals with Krishna as the absolute truth, the summum bonum. He is the summum bonum. Here, Srimad Bhagavatam deals with him in the fullest and the maximum extent. While we deal with him as God, there's a limitation. And the limitation is such that the personal aspect of God sometimes could become a little bit covered. The personal aspect of God is covered over by his opulence. The personal aspect of God is covered over by the Aishwarya, the extraordinary opulence of God. So we can't really see him in that particular extent. You can't approach him. You can't tie him up like Mother Yashoda does. Mother Yashoda ties him up. Can you tie up God? You cannot. But can you tie up your son? That is the absolute truth. That basically is an extension beyond defining Krishna as God. So what we are entering into is a very, very, very special topic. This is an extraordinarily special topic because the authority to enter this topic is not even available in the Vedas. Let's understand this a little deeper. From the syllable Om, Lord Brahma, when he was meditating on the syllable Om, when he was meditating on the Gayatri, he basically derived the Vedas. He received the Vedas. Then he passed on the Vedas to creation so that we could live in a certain way. From the Vedas, we have the conclusion of the Vedas, which is the Vedanta Sutra. From the Vedas, we have derived the Vedanta Sutra, which is also called the Brahma Sutra. This has been derived from the Vedas. But what is to be understood is that the essence of all of the Brahma Sutras, the Vedanta Sutra, is the Srimad Bhagavatam. Why is it called the essence? It is called the essence because the compiler of the Vedas, Srila Vyasadeva, the compiler of the sutras, the Vedanta Sutras is Srila Vyasadeva, his realizations after doing all of that is captured in Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a natural commentary. Why is it called a natural commentary? It is called a natural commentary because it's an extension of realizations that come from someone who has put together all the Vedas. All the Vedanta Sutras, all the Vedas have all been put together. And when someone has done this great, phenomenal, voluminous, extraordinary job of putting everything together, he develops realizations. His realizations start with despondency. He feels dissatisfied. He feels sad. He has done all the Upanishads. He has done the Puranas. He has done everything. He feels quite despondent. And at that time, Sri Narad Muni, his spiritual master of Srila Vyasadeva, approaches him and instructs him that he must write on the activities of the Supreme Lord. Now we are moving, and Srila Narad Muni is basically saying, you have spoken about God. You have spoken about the rules and regulations of God, which is Vidhi, right? We talk about the Vedas, it is Vidhi. Now you must speak about his activities. So God is different from the absolute truth because now the summum bonum includes the personality of God. It includes what he likes to eat. It likes, you're basically looking at pastimes. You're looking at intimate pastimes, very confidential pastimes. And this particular truth is not available to anyone. You'll have to understand that. It is not available in general. So there's a certain specialty which is involved in the study of Srimad Bhagavatam, because Srimad Bhagavatam, from a philosophical standpoint, is basically beyond a description of just God. It is the description of his personal life. It is a description of the personality of Godhead. It's very intimate. So this is basically the point which Sri Narad Muni raised with Srila Vyasadeva. He said, you won't be satisfied with what you have done if you don't write about the absolute nature of Godhead, not the relative nature, absolute nature of Godhead, which is what Krishna is saying in 4.9. Janma karma chame divyam. Yovam evam yo veti tattvataha. Evam yo veti tattvataha. He's saying, if you don't understand me through tattva, which is the absolute truth, the absolute consideration, you won't come back to me. You will come back to me if you understand me in the absolute consideration. We will know more as we go through this introduction as to how this is going to be arranged, so that we could prepare ourselves to embrace this whole coming of Krishna into our lives in a much deeper sense. All of us are devotees at different, we are practicing devotional service for different years, but we are all absolutely on the same path. But sometimes it helps in redefining ourselves before we proceed. So I just want to set the stage for the line of discussion from this session onwards. First, we need to understand that there is a distinction. What the Vedas speak about and what everything else Sri Vyasadeva did is very different from what he did in Srimad Bhagavatam. In Srimad Bhagavatam, he moved into the absolute consideration completely. He moved into the area of being able to address Krishna's personal activities, without which no one can be satisfied, because there is really no fun if you don't have a relationship. Now we are getting into the relationship aspect of God. Srila Vyasadeva was despondent. He was sad. So that's the difference between the two aspects of why Srimad Bhagavatam is very special. Srimad Bhagavatam is also very, very special because it is non-different from Krishna. It is completely non-different from Krishna. It is completely non-different from Krishna. Krishna appears in different avatars. Excuse me. Krishna appears in different avatars. He appears and he disappears. Srimad Bhagavatam appears and disappears. Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. If Srimad Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna, it appears and it disappears. Then what is the role of Srila Vyasadeva? This is the consideration we have to have, because Srimad Bhagavatam is a literary representation of Krishna. There's no difference between Bhagavatam and Krishna. So what is the role of Srila Vyasadeva? How could we involve the writer of the Srimad Bhagavatam when Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself? When Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna himself and Krishna independently appears and leaves, disappears. Similarly, Srimad Bhagavatam appears and disappears. So how does Vyasadeva, what is the role of Srila Vyasadeva? This is very, very interesting. For the sake of activities, for the sake of his Leela, Krishna takes on a father and a mother. Srila Vyasadeva is playing the role of father and mother in Srimad Bhagavatam. When Krishna appears as Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva is playing the role of father and mother. So this is very significant to understand this extraordinary relationship between Srila Vyasadeva and Srimad Bhagavatam. It is Krishna himself who has appeared as Srimad Bhagavatam. But that Leela and of the appearance of Srimad Bhagavatam is happening through the potency of Srila Vyasadeva. So he is, in one sense, playing the role of a parent. He is bringing forth this Leela of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is manifesting itself through Srila Vyasadeva. So this is very important for us to understand that it's a very, very personal aspect. Srimad Bhagavatam is also very personal. It is not a book. It's very personal. It is not an ordinary book. It is very personal. It is a transcendental presentation. It is full of consciousness. It is non-different from Krishna. It is completely non-different from Krishna. As a consequence, when we look at Srimad Bhagavatam, we need to approach Srimad Bhagavatam in that particular mood. We need to approach Srimad Bhagavatam in that particular mood. Non-different. We have to be very, very, I would say not only reverential, but completely appreciative of the Srimad Bhagavatam in our homes. This Krishna in our homes. It's the greatest auspiciousness. It is said, a beautiful example is given by one of our acharyas, Srila Gorgovind Maharaj. And he gives this example of a donkey, an ass. The ass or the donkey is basically a burden-carrying animal. It's a beast of burden. It basically carries a huge burden on its back. So its daily life for the donkey is to carry a burden, and then when it goes to the river shore or wherever, the dhobi or whoever it is who has got the donkey under his command, they would relieve the donkey of the burden and then allow the donkey to graze grass, which is already free. In one sense, our lives are like a donkey's life because we carry a tremendous amount of burden in material life. And what is easily available is fought and had with great, great hard work by us. So one day, this donkey is given a big load of sandalwood. You know, everybody knows the sandalwood. The donkey is now carrying sandalwood. And when it is carrying sandalwood, the donkey is able to smell the extraordinary, beautiful, very, very, I would say, pleasant smell of sandalwood on its back. And the donkey at that time is thinking that my life has become successful. I'm carrying such burden, but today I'm carrying something which smells so good. My life is successful. So in that sense, even if someone doesn't appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam, when we distribute Srimad Bhagavatam and they take the Srimad Bhagavatam and keep it in their homes and they don't even know what it is, someday they would open it up, and just like the donkey who has carried a huge load of unwanted burden throughout his life, they would open it up and they would start appreciating that, oh my God, this has been in my home and this is so wonderful, and I didn't even know this. It was kept on the shelf all these years. So distributing Srimad Bhagavatam is just the wonderful, most amazing activity. We have just completed the December marathon. When we distribute Srimad Bhagavatam, we basically when we basically distribute Srimad Bhagavatam, we then have the ability to also allow someone who is suffering under the great burden of life on the material plane from being blessed by the presence of Srimad Bhagavatam someday in their lives. In the sense, if you keep it on the shelf, someday that person would pick it up and they would read it. My spiritual master, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he used to say that while distributing books in the communist countries those days, during the I would say the time when the world was divided, he used to have a technique. He used to find out as to who is blessed and who is not blessed. So he used to take Srimad Bhagavatam, and those days there were not many copies, and then it wasn't, it was in the sense that Srila Prabhupada used to write, and then the printing press used to basically get started, and then it was almost as if it was a huge effort. It was a huge effort, and the distributors of books those days used to carry few copies because not all the copies were ready, and they used to carry a few copies with beautiful pictures. So he used to say he used to give the Bhagavatam in the hands of those whom he used to meet, and they used to hold on to the Bhagavatam, and they used to see the picture. Some pictures were very beautiful, and he used to see that they used to be immediately attracted. Some people, the moment he used to give the Bhagavatam in their hands, used to literally drop it. They used to literally drop it because their sinful culture was such that they couldn't even touch it. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is living Krishna. It's Krishna himself. And as a consequence, you have different reactions from different people when they come in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam. And in our system, we have been given Srimad Bhagavatam, and the demand is that we hear Srimad Bhagavatam on a daily basis. What did we notice about Parikshit Maharaj? What is very important about the situation of Parikshit Maharaj hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from Sukadev Goswami? What was very important? The juncture of time was very important. It was the beginning of Kali Yuga. It was the end of Dwapar Yuga. What is it which is to be learned from the beginning of Kali Yuga and the end of Dwapar Yuga? Basically, the Srimad Bhagavatam setting of someone speaking Srimad Bhagavatam and someone listening to Srimad Bhagavatam and being delivered by listening to Srimad Bhagavatam is very significant. Sri Parikshit Maharaj listened to Srimad Bhagavatam, Shravanam. Kirtanam was going on by Sukadev Goswami. Srila Sukadev Goswami spoke and glorified Srimad Bhagavatam. When this glorification was going on, it happened at a juncture of the end, at the end of Dwapara and the beginning of Kali. At the end of Dwapara and the beginning of Kali. So what does it mean when it is at the end of Dwapara and beginning of Kali? It means that in Kali Yuga, a certain system is being set up. A certain system is being set up which is going to be most effective in terms of people being able to deliver themselves. This particular system which is being set up had to happen at the juncture of Dwapara and Kali. So what is it that we need to understand? We need to understand very clearly that the system which was given to Srila Parikshit Maharaj is the system that has been given to the whole of Kali Yuga for everyone. The system that was given by Srila Sukadev Goswami was the system that is to be adopted by everyone. So that is the reason why we insist that Srimad Bhagavatam has to be heard every day. It's because this is the only thing that we can do. This is the only thing we can do. So there is this whole concept of Bhakta Bhagavata and Grantha Bhagavata. Grantha means scripture. Bhakta Bhagavata means the speaker. Both are basically to be we have to come in touch with both on a daily basis. Because of one reason. Because the Bhagavat cannot be understood unless there is prema. The qualification to understand Srimad Bhagavatam fully and to appreciate Srimad Bhagavatam comes from those who are on the path of obtaining Krishna prema. Our acharyas say, Srimad Bhagavatam being received by those who are Gaura Priyajana. Gaura Priyajana. Those of us who are the beloved devotees of Lord Chaitanya, we have an absolute right over the Srimad Bhagavatam because our objective is not moksha. Our objective is not the highest qualification which every other system follows. The followers of Mahaprabhu are not even after moksha, right? We are not after moksha. We are after the prema. We are after the love of Godhead. As a consequence, one who has the goal of prema, the goal of Krishna prema, the goal of having an understanding of what is love and what is loving God, what does it mean? Those personalities, those devotees can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we come in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam on a daily basis, then we hear from qualified devotees, and through both of these, the Bhagavatam and coming in touch with those who live the Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is Grantha Bhagavatam, Bhakta Bhagavata is one who is living the tenets of the Bhagavatam. And when we come in touch with those who are living the tenets of the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavatam on a daily basis, there's a certain mellow, there's a certain bhakti rasa which flows through both. The source of bhakti rasa, the source of rasa, which is basically the nectar of falling in love with Krishna, flows through the Bhagavatam and the devotee who is speaking the Bhagavatam and living the Bhagavatam. When we come in touch with these personalities, we have the ability to receive this rasa. When this rasa is received by us, we become subdued. When Krishna comes in touch with prema, when Krishna comes in touch with the devotee's prema, he becomes subdued. Krishna is subdued by the love of his devotees. Now we have to understand how special this is. It's because when Krishna, this is from Mahaprabhu's Leela. Why did Mahaprabhu's Leela occur? When Krishna was observing Srimati Radharani, Srimati Radharani represents the maximum extent of Krishna's prema. What is it which is possible? And how much can one love Krishna? The maximum extent is represented by Srimati Radharani. When Krishna was observing Srimati Radharani's love, he was observing several things. He was quite bewildered. He was baffled. He was saying, how is it possible that someone could be so mad and so madly in love with me? How is it possible for someone to lose their mind, lose everything, lose any sense of time? How could they be so captured by me? He was quite baffled. He couldn't understand the behavior of his devotees because someone is loving him. So he doesn't quite understand what is it which is about me, which is attracting them. How beautiful am I that my beauty baffles my devotees? Krishna himself was baffled about it. You see, Krishna himself was baffled by the behavior of his dearmost devotees, that he couldn't understand what is so special in me that they are in this way. Because Krishna is also after rasa. He is also after the essence of relationships. There's a beautiful story where Lord Narasimha, the most ferocious appearance of Krishna as Lord Narasimha, when he looked at Prahalad Maharaj, while Prahalad Maharaj was seated on his lap, he looked at Prahalad Maharaj. And he was looking at Prahalad Maharaj and he was thinking, what is it which he is experiencing? Prahalad Maharaj basically was looking upon him as a father, someone who is playing the role of a father, because his father was killed. Prahalad Maharaj's father, Hiranyakashipu, was killed by Lord Narasimhadev. So when Lord Narasimhadev killed his father, he desired to become Prahalad Maharaj's father. He said, I have to protect him. You know, the role of a father is to protect and to provide. I have to protect this child. I have killed his father. So he seated himself on the throne of Hiranyakashipu. Nowhere is it seen in the Srimad Bhagavatam or the Puranas of Krishna killing someone, a demon, and then sitting on the throne of the demon. Prahalad Maharaj experienced this with Narasimhadev. Narasimhadev sat on the throne. He picked up Prahalad Maharaj, placed him on his lap, and he looked at him and he was understanding, what is he going through? What is he experiencing? What is he experiencing, in this particular situation? We left off by we started talking about the specialty of those who are followers of Lord Chaitanya. We basically are talking about those who are followers of Lord Chaitanya have special access to Srimad Bhagavatam. Why is it that we are making a statement of special access to Srimad Bhagavatam? What is it that we are practicing in Chaitanya Bhakti? What is it that Mahaprabhu has given us which is going to allow us access to something so special? The fact is that Mahaprabhu has given us an objective which is beyond the normal objective of moksha, which is liberation. General religious practice aims to achieve moksha. They achieve liberation. But our practice is not about moksha. We literally are not asking for liberation. We are saying we don't even want liberation. We are saying basically that we want something which is even beyond the process of liberation. That's the difference between what Mahaprabhu is offering and everybody else is doing. There's something special because we basically are saying we are not going to settle for liberation. We will not settle for liberation. We are not interested in being liberated out of the material world. We are interested in a relationship. Now, when we start talking relationship, we have to understand that relationship involves taste. A literal translation of taste is rasa. Rasa is the taste in a relationship. And for you to really taste something and to absorb yourself, when you absorb it and when you taste something so wonderful, it subdues us. It subdues, subjugates, overpowers our senses. This is an experience that we have had when, for example, Srila Prabhupada used to give the example of a mango. In season, very special mango is full of rasa. And this rasa, which is the essence or the taste of the mango, is such that there are many, many personalities who basically would be able to experience a subjugation or subduing of their senses when they eat a mango. In other words, the rasa is very special. It's a very special fruit. So there really isn't anything special about anything if you don't have rasa. If you do not have rasa, there's nothing special. So we wouldn't be able to taste it. So we are not really interested in liberation. Liberation does not give us the objective of tasting the relationship with Krishna. Krishna is also after this relationship. He is also wanting to taste the rasa in relationships. And this is even seen in an extraordinary avatar of Krishna, which is Lord Narasimha. Lord Narasimha is also looking to taste relationships. Isn't it fascinating that we always understand him as the protector, which is true. We also understand him in such a fierce form. But then this is Krishna. So he is basically saying, I want to taste this relationship. This boy, Prahalad Maharaj, is seated on my lap. He is looking upon me like a son would the father. He is tasting a relationship. What is that particular taste? I need to taste it as well. So Narasimhadev basically is inspired by the taste of the relationship which Srila Prahalad Maharaj is experiencing. Isn't it fascinating? Now we are talking about absolute truth. We are not talking about God. When we talk about God, we are talking about Narasimhadev sitting and practically killing Hiranyakashipu, protecting Prahalad Maharaj, annihilating the demons. But now we are talking about the absolute feature of God. So we are talking about relationships, and we are talking about rasa, which is flowing even from Narasimhadev. It's quite fascinating to see that Narasimhadev himself is saying, I need to understand what is the boy experiencing. He is experiencing such determination and such glory in just being my son. I am playing the role of a father. I killed his father. What is he experiencing? So when he says, I must find out what he is experiencing, the next avatar, Lord Narasimhadev, becomes Lord Ram. It's a natural delineation. He becomes Lord Ram. In Lord Rama's avatar, the most important relationship which is seen is that of duty towards the father. He practically abandons everything in certain ways. He gives up his kingdom, gives up everything just to keep the relationship with the father. He is basically the most duty-bound, Maryada Purushottama. He is basically upholding a sense of duty to such an extent that he gives up and suffers so much. In one sense, there's no suffering for Lord Ram, but in another sense, you have to understand that he went through all kinds of tribulations to maintain the relationship of a son with a father. If he had not gone into the forest, Ravana would not have seen Mother Sita. Mother Sita would not have been abducted. There would not have been such confusion where people would not have pointed fingers at Mother Sita to such an extent that Lord Ram had to banish her against the forest. Lava and Kusha, his children, were born in separation from their father. Can you just imagine the consequences of the specific avatar and what he was just going through in just maintaining the relationship of a son with a father? This is rasa. Now, in Ram's avatar, in Lord Ram's avatar, Lakshman is serving him day and night. When he is serving him day and night, when Lakshman is serving him day and night, he is also thinking that there's such formality between me and my brother. I can't even go close to him. I can't say anything I want because he is the king and he is the Samambonam, he is the ruler of the kingdom. I can't really interact with him as I would love to. So what do we see with Lakshman? Lakshman used to serve Lord Ram with such seriousness that he actually started thinking that I can't even interact with my brother. What is the next situation? Lakshman, basically in Dwapar Yuga, is Balaram. In one sense, ontologically, Balaram is the origin. But Lakshman in the Dwapar Yuga becomes Balaram, where he is experiencing the rasa of a brother and a friend and parent and everything else. This whole vista just opens up. And what is this? This is rasa. This is basically the taste of the relationship, which is what they're all looking for. This rasa is available only through two sources. It is available through Srimad Bhagavatam because it is Krishna himself. It is also available through the Bhakta Bhagavata, who is speaking the Srimad Bhagavatam, who is living the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, do we understand that when we come in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam, the Bhagavatam has the ability to subdue us. A devotee of the Lord who is carrying rasa and relationship with the Lord can subdue us. They can subdue our senses and make them subservient so that we can also experience the same thing. Srimad Bhagavatam, the taste of Srimad Bhagavatam is so powerful that one becomes subdued. To subdue our senses in this material world and to purify our senses and to engage in service, one needs to come in touch. There has to be Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. What is the word Nityam? What does it mean? What is the word Nityam? Nityam means, in one sense, it's eternal. The other definition is it's daily. There has to be a daily practice of Bhagavatam for us to be able to fully understand the rasa and to become overwhelmed. We spoke of the fact that Krishna himself is overwhelmed by his devotees. When Krishna and his devotee who is in prema interact, Krishna becomes subservient. Krishna becomes subservient. So one needs to understand that Krishna himself can become subservient. When he couldn't understand the love of his devotees, when he couldn't understand the extraordinary nature of the love of Srimati Radharani, he comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani, that is Lord Chaitanya. When he comes in the mood of Srimati Radharani and he is looking at all of us, and he is wondering, how is it possible that they can even exist without the love of Godhead? How is it possible that they can even breathe without Krishna Prema? How is it possible that they can even exist without Krishna Prema? Because he couldn't exist. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu couldn't exist. He couldn't sleep, eat, he could do nothing. When he was in Jagannath Puri, he couldn't do anything. And that made him think that how is it possible that these people are in separation? I can't stand this separation. Now there's another secret which is being given. All of you devotees in Birmingham and Coventry, you are very fortunate because you have Jagannath as the main deity. Do you know why Mahaprabhu came to Puri? Does everybody know why Mahaprabhu came to Puri? There was a reason why Mahaprabhu left Vrindavan and he came to Puri. Why? Anybody want to speak? They can unmute themselves. Why did Mahaprabhu leave Vrindavan? He was in Vrindavan. He then went on a tour and he reached Jagannath Puri. Why is Jagannath so special? If there is a deity form, the highest expression of Krishna is Jagannath. The highest expression of Krishna is Jagannath. If there is a deity whose expression can be considered the highest, that is Jagannath. Why did Mahaprabhu leave Vrindavan and come to Puri? He went from Vrindavan to Puri. One would wonder that if this is Radharani and Radharani is in separation, why can't she be in Vrindavan? Why couldn't Mahaprabhu be in Vrindavan? He leaves Vrindavan, he comes to Jagannath Puri. You are all so fortunate. Every one of you in Birmingham having the deity of Lord Jagannath as the main deity in Birmingham is so fortunate. You have to understand that when the yatra has Jagannath as the main deity, you have to understand that that yatra is a very blessed yatra, and you need to understand your position that a lot has to be done, because the highest form of Krishna is Jagannath. The highest form of Krishna is Jagannath. Mahaprabhu chose Jagannath Puri because Jagannath is Krishna in separation. Mahaprabhu is in the mood of Radharani in separation. That is the reason why Mahaprabhu chose Jagannath Puri. So the point we are trying to make here is that every one of us have to understand that this entire aspect of God as a person is being dealt with in Srimad Bhagavatam. This is rasa. This rasa of the relationship of God with his personal servants, with his friends, with his parents, and with his consort. All of this is the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam starts with the Gayatri Mantra. The Srimad Bhagavatam starts with the Gayatri Mantra. Can anyone unmute themselves and answer as to why is it that we are starting with the first verse which is compared to the Gayatri Mantra? Can anyone answer this? Why are we starting with the Gayatri Mantra in the Srimad Bhagavatam? The first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam deals with the Gayatri Mantra. When you are here in Vrindavan, everybody's phone in India rings with the Gayatri Mantra, to be honest. They don't have any other ringtones. You have this Tat Saviturvarenyam, Vargo Devasya Dhimahi, Diyo Yona Prachodayat, in a very nice voice. Normally it's a Mataji's voice, which is very melodious, and everybody has that ringtone here. You don't know if a phone is ringing or someone is singing. We don't know what it is. Everybody has it in Vrindavan. So the question is, Srimad Bhagavatam is beginning with the Gayatri Mantra. Why? Can anyone answer? I don't mean to put you in a spot, but I'm just asking a question to see if anybody has thought about it or heard about it. You can completely make any kind of answer. It's perfectly okay. Your family, so it's okay. Please answer if you have any thoughts. It's okay. Why is the Srimad Bhagavatam's first verse related to the Gayatri Mantra? Why are we starting with the Gayatri Mantra? What is the Gayatri Mantra? The Gayatri Mantra, which is so well known by many, it is the highest mantra in the material world. That is the answer from Mayapur Prabhu, yes. But why is it starting there? Why is the Bhagavatam starting there? Basically, the answer is the Gayatri Mantra is the highest mantra of the material world, and it is chanted by those who seek moksha, liberation, as a goal. The jurisdiction of Srimad Bhagavatam begins where the Gayatri Mantra ends. Please understand, the jurisdiction of Srimad Bhagavatam begins where Gayatri Mantra is ending. The Gayatri Mantra is the first mantra of Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not the last. It is not the conclusion. Maha Mantra is the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam. The first mantra of Srimad Bhagavatam is the Gayatri Mantra, because the Gayatri Mantra is talking about liberation. To be liberated from material conditioning, one chants the Gayatri Mantra. Once you are liberated, then Srimad Bhagavatam begins right there. This Bhagavatam is also meant for those who are liberated. The four Kumaras, they were liberated already. They had already attained moksha. They had already gone beyond the material world. The relishment comes from the relishment, or rather relishing Srimad Bhagavatam is also available to those who are liberated. The Gayatri Mantra is the first mantra of Srimad Bhagavatam, because the jurisdiction of the Gayatri Mantra is to give liberation. The jurisdiction of Srimad Bhagavatam begins from there, because liberation ends and relationship begins. So one does require to be situated in the highest mode of goodness. One does require to be completely freed from passion and ignorance. One does require to be beyond the material sky. That is the objective of the Vedas. That is the objective of the sutras. But beyond the material sky, after liberation, your relationship with God begins. That is the jurisdiction of Bhagavatam, where the conception of God ends and the personality and the relationship of God begins. It begins with Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, do we understand the distinction between the aspect of moksha versus the aspect of understanding God as a person and understanding his personal attributes? This is the difference. The differences between the two is such that there is moksha and then there is God as the personal attributes of God. Srimad Bhagavatam's jurisdiction begins after liberation. That's the reason why even those who are liberated relish the Srimad Bhagavatam. It is said that Srila Sukadev Goswami never mentioned Srimati Radharani's name in the Bhagavatam, because if he had mentioned Srimati Radharani's name in the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that he would have gone into ecstatic symptoms, because he is considered a servant of Srimati Radharani. As a consequence, in her remembrance, he would not have been able to speak. He never even spoke her name, kept it so confidential. He kept that fact so confidential. The jurisdiction of Srimad Bhagavatam is beyond the Vedas. It is beyond the material sky. It does not even start where the Gayatri Mantra takes us. It goes beyond. The jurisdiction of Srimad Bhagavatam grants us personal relationship with Krishna. This is rasa. Rasa comes from Bhagavatam. Personal relationship with Krishna comes from Bhagavatam. The Bhakta Bhagavata is the practitioner of Bhagavatam, the practitioner of life defined by Bhagavatam, as defined by Bhagavatam, who is experiencing prema. If you have the objective of wanting to fall in love with Krishna, Bhagavatam is most appropriate, because Srimad Bhagavatam is all about Krishna prema. It is Krishna. There's no difference between Krishna and Bhagavatam. There isn't any difference. So what is the objective? Daily hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam would subdue us in love of Krishna, and that is the path given by Parikshit Maharaj, because that is the beginning of Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, the business is to hear. The business is to glorify, and the business is to hear. That is a business. The sadhana that has been given to us of Mahamantra, the chanting of the Mahamantra, the sadhana that has been given to us, in reality prepares us for the experience in many ways, and Srimad Bhagavatam details those experiences. We read Srimad Bhagavatam and come in touch with Krishna. We chant the Harinam and also come in touch with Krishna. So we basically need both. We are glorifying. Kirtanam is going on when we are chanting the holy names. Shravanam is also going on at the same time. So what is the stage that is being set by Parikshit Maharaj? Parikshit Maharaj talking to Sukadev Goswami, he is setting the stage that in Kali Yuga, you hear Srimad Bhagavatam, and that alone will motivate you because there is rasa flowing from Srimad Bhagavatam. That rasa will motivate you and it will subdue your senses. It will subdue you in so many different ways that you would have the ability to move forward. So this is like the donkey who has the ability, or rather the opportunity, to carry scented wood. Yes, this is, in material life, is considered to be a donkey's life because we are beasts of burden. We suffer like anything, carrying all kinds of burdens that have been imposed upon us. And when we come in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam, this beast of burden, which is us on a daily basis, has the ability to have this wonderful rasa, and as a consequence, our senses and everything gets overpowered and subdued by the rasa of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we develop a relationship. So what we will do is we'll quickly summarize, and then we will end today's session because I don't want the meeting to end on its own, and then we can start a Q&A for today if there are any questions. The summary is as follows. We wanted to first and foremost distinguish the terms God and absolute truth. We took up 4.9 from the Bhagavad Gita as the basis of today's discussion. The word used by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita is tattvataha. Tattva means understanding him through absolute consideration. He is saying, if you just understand me as God, you will not be able to come back to me. But if you understand me in absolute consideration, you will come back to me, tattvataha. And what is the difference between God and absolute truth? God plays the role of creator, maintainer, destroyer. The absolute truth, on the other hand, includes his personal life. So we are after understanding even his personal aspects. That was the first discussion. Next, we looked at the fact that Gaura Priyajana, the followers of Mahaprabhu, are most fortunate because Mahaprabhu is not even aiming for moksha. Then we are discussing the fact that moksha, which is liberation, which is one of the four most important goals, the most important goal is liberation. The jurisdiction of the Gayatri Mantra is liberation. And after liberation, Bhagavatam begins. So Bhagavatam is also the aspect of what can be relished by those who are already liberated. So it is meant for those who are on the way to liberation. It is also meant for those who have already been liberated. We looked at that aspect to understand it. We also looked at the fact that even Krishna in his most fierce form of Nrsimhadev is looking for rasa, the taste of relationships. He is looking for relationships even as Nrsimhadev. He comes as Ram and understands the relationship of a son with father. He then comes as Krishna, where he practically experiences everything. This is just the delineation. In reality, from an eternal perspective, Krishna is the origin of all our avatars. But you can understand the delineation of rasa. You can understand the different aspects of the relationship as to how it's getting broken down when we understand the different avatars as well. Then we also spoke about the fact that every day we need to come in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam. Why is it being instituted for everyday hearing? Is because it is the practice that was initiated by Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. It happened in the beginning of Kali Yuga. In the beginning of Kali Yuga, they set up a system for us to follow, saying, in Kali Yuga, you need to do this on a daily basis. If you do this, you'll be delivered. That was the example given by Parikshit Maharaj. So we are setting ourselves up. If you chant, you're able to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. The hearing process, the seeing process are all controlled by coming in touch with Krishna as Nama. And when we read Srimad Bhagavatam, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, our attachment to chanting will increase. Rasa, the taste, flows from Bhagavatam, Grantha Bhagavat. It also flows when we hear Bhagavatam and come in touch with the devotees of Bhagavatam. When we come in touch with the lifestyles and the life of Bhagavatas, devotees, then we are also inspired, which is the objective of these sessions. These sessions are going to focus on the lives of these devotees. So we are going to come in touch with the Grantha Bhagavat. In that, we are also going to come in touch with the Bhakta Bhagavat. So why is it? To experience rasa. To experiencing rasa, we would be subdued. Krishna himself is subdued by the rasa, or the relationship, or the essence of the relationship, or the mellow flowing from different devotees. He is subdued to different degrees. So we will also be subdued by coming in touch with Krishna, which is also the objective of daily hearing. So this purification process requires an understanding and a structure. So the objective of this course is to lay out that structure so that we could understand Srimad Bhagavatam with a more defined structure. We will understand why we are reading what we are reading. We will understand how to approach different personalities. We could also be inspired to take on role models, which is the whole objective of this session. These sessions are going to be a focus on the Bhakta Bhagavata, those who are in the Bhagavat and who speak the Bhagavat, and also the fact as to how their lifestyles have changed and what is it they do. There are different categories of faith. We're going to discuss it in the next session. There are different categories of authority. You will notice that the different devotees in Srimad Bhagavatam had different abilities to come close to Krishna. And we're going to look at those as well. We have to see is that why is it that one person's experience was quite different from someone else's, because the authority is very different. The blessing is very different. We also need to understand that we are so blessed. We're going to understand that as well. So we'll come in touch with all of these. Now I would end here after I've summarized. And what I would request you to do is feel free to ask questions, because that is how, I guess, one who is giving classes or preaching or rather sharing their realizations also get enthused, because they have come in touch with people who have been hearing very sincerely. So we open up for questions. You should unmute yourself, ask questions, and then you could mute yourself. And if there are questions which would be better dealt with in future sessions, I would tell you so. So don't be disappointed with that either.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Thanks for a lovely class. It's Nishi here from Coventry.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. I wanted to ask that usually when I'm hearing Bhagavatam, it's like quite ad hoc. It's like a class on one verse here, and then the next day it's a different canto and like that. So if we wanted to systematically read and study Bhagavatam, what is the best way to do that?
I guess the opportunity. Thank you for your question. You see, yes, because we do come across one verse here and one verse there, but in essence, what is also observed is that the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam in most cases is dealt with to inspire us to chant better. That is the whole topic of Bhagavatam. The idea is Bhagavatam deals with chanting in the beginning. It also deals with chanting in the middle and the end. So we could draw inspiration from those different verses which come across, provided the speaker also has the objective of wanting to inspire the audience to chant. That is the whole idea of the Bhagavatam. So that's the first point. In other words, you can draw inspiration from any verse and every verse, provided the speaker also has the objective of wanting to inspire us to follow the modality given in the Bhagavatam, wanting to inspire us to take up serious chanting, which is the objective of Bhagavatam. Now, coming to your second part as to how do you study it in a structured manner. I guess the structured manner is for us to basically approach it, obviously from the beginning, but what is important for us to approach the Bhagavatam, what is very important is for us to have already studied the Bhagavad Gita quite thoroughly. If one has already studied the Bhagavad Gita quite thoroughly, then they have the ability to understand what Krishna is expecting us to do when we approach the Bhagavatam. The different topics of the Bhagavad Gita prepare us for the Bhagavatam. Then what we also notice is basically when we come into and appreciate the Bhagavad Gita and go into the Bhagavatam in a structured manner, we then have the ability to experience the Bhagavatam fully. So my recommendation, start with the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita has a lot of secrets on how to approach the Bhagavatam. That is the reason why we have Bhagavad Gita first, Bhagavatam, and then the Chaitanya Charitamrita. When one has completely absorbed themselves in the topics of Bhagavatam, then they are in ecstasy. The behavior of those devotees is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. So we have these three topics. There's a second answer to your question. Now, we also would suggest that when you want to structure it right from the beginning. You can structure it right from the beginning. I was very excited when Mayapur Prabhu wrote to me and said, let's talk about topics of different personalities in the first canto, different personalities in the second canto. this is a very, very nice way to approach this as well, because when you start understanding the behavior of people within the Srimad Bhagavatam, then we have a lot of ability to focus on aspects of faith, aspects of their authority, aspects of what they were achieving and why were they disappointed and who achieved what. For example, you can find someone praying to Krishna to do something. You know, say, I think in the 6th or the 7th canto, there is the prayer offered by one of the Prajapatis, and he wants to beget as many children as possible. Krishna appears there. So you also understand that there are people who are approaching Krishna for different things. So you have different topics in different particular sections saying that here's a person who is approaching Krishna for the purpose of wanting to beget children, because he is a Prajapati. He is consequences of these is that they are missing out on, and what is it which they are getting. So that's a fantastic approach as well. That's another suggestion I have. If you want to read the Bhagavatam and you just pick personalities and read about them, and then you also receive some help in understanding how they are different from what is being defined by Srila Rupa Goswami, then we would have a much better understanding of the Bhagavatam as well. I hope this clears your doubt or your question.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Anyone else? Okay, so Mayapur Prabhu is saying, no, the idea of personalities in Bhagavatam came from Christina. So, yes, he's just wanting me to acknowledge that. Yeah, very good, Christina Mataji. It's a great idea. Anyone else? Any other question on what we just spoke today? Or whatever was discussed?
Hare Krishna, Shivanam.
Haribol, Rasraj Prabhu. All glories.
Prabhu, I was going to ask you, you were sharing how Lord Nrsingadev had that desire that he wanted to experience that relationship of how it's to be a son, so he came as Lord Ram. So Lord Ram in the next show came as Krishna. So why did he want to, in Dwarpa Yoga, why did he have that desire?
Well, it was highly restricted. Lord Ram was Maryada Purushottam, and he was highly restricted in having to follow the codes of society to establish principles. And the rasa was highly restricted. How was it restricted? Because he came as a king, and as a consequence, there was an extraordinary distance between him and his devotees. There was an extraordinary distance because there was so much formality in just approaching Lord Shri Ram. So the experience of rasa, he completely opened out in the Krishna avatar. He said, you know, this is it, the doors are open. So that's the main reason, that's the motivation, because it was very restricted. See, if you understand the difference between Krishna avatar, so I was beginning to answer the questions which Priyanka had, and her question was basically, why not chant the Gayatri mantra, because we are not liberated, and then if the Bhagavatam begins after liberation, why not obtain liberation through chanting the Gayatri mantra? I think, was that your question, Priyanka? If you could confirm. I think that was your question. Okay, yes. So she had answered yes. So the Gayatri mantra basically is a very, very powerful mantra which allows us to completely remove the mode of passion and ignorance and it awards us pure goodness. So we can cross from the material nature, which is mixed mode of goodness, mixed mode of passion, goodness, and ignorance, to the higher level. It allows us that. The jurisdiction of Krishna consciousness is all about, I'm so sorry about the other sound. I'm sorry for the disturbance. Just one moment, please. I'm just waiting for it to end. Okay. So the jurisdiction of the Mahamantra begins here. It also allows us to move beyond liberation. The results of chanting Mahamantra are available to us very quickly. The fact is, there are many devotees who have many, many desires when they come into devotional service. When they come into devotional service, they are practically very disturbed, and they come in a disturbed state. But then a year after coming into devotional service, you will notice that they have changed. They themselves notice this, and this can be practically affirmed and accepted by many, many of us. We come into devotional service, we start chanting the holy names, and a year later we find ourselves with very little anxiety. The anxiety and so-called disturbances become very minimized. This is a symptom of liberation. The symptom of liberation is to be free from passion and ignorance, and that is experienced very early on in the Bhagavatam. In the chanting of the Mahamantra. So the Mahamantra in the stage of offenseless chanting grants us liberation. That is called Namabhas. It's a dim reflection of the pure name. In a stage of offenseless chanting, Harinam gives us liberation. Those who are chanting offenselessly, they are experiencing the symptoms of liberation already. So, to answer your question, the Mahamantra has the ability to grant liberation at an early stage and then also give us a relationship with Krishna. Krishna himself comes in the Mahamantra. There's no difference between Krishna and his Naam. When Krishna comes as his Naam, he will first appear in our hearts as Naam. And afterwards, you will experience Krishna in his personal form. There's no difference between Naam and Krishna. First, he will appear in our heart as Naam, and then he will become Krishna himself. So in that sense, Krishna first and foremost picks us up, elevates our consciousness, takes us beyond material nature, gives us the relationship. So the whole practice of Krishna consciousness includes this whole aspect of liberation. We don't have to strive for it. Since we don't have to strive for it, it is not the goal of Krishna consciousness. The goal of Krishna consciousness is falling in love, which requires understanding Krishna, understanding ourselves, and falling in love. But falling in love also includes liberation, because Krishna is in the spiritual platform, we are materially situated. We have to be picked up and elevating ourselves, and finally we reach there. That is also accomplished by the Mahamantra. That is the reason why it is not required. It is not required. But if someone is chanting the Gayatri Mantra, they can. There's no harm in chanting the Gayatri Mantra. It would help them basically reach the point of mode of goodness. Then they would be able to chant the Mahamantra as well. You could do both together. So there's no harm in chanting. But then Mahamantra has the capacity to give us the goal of the Gayatri Mantra, which is liberation as well. I hope I answered your question, Priyanka.
Prabhuji, is there time?
Yes, I can. Yeah, there is. Yeah, is this
Okay.
so, Priyanka? I can see your next question as well. During second initiation, the Gayatri is given. The Gayatri Mantra is given with the objective. During second initiation, in our process, is for us to be able to basically engage in the worship of the deities. It helps in bringing up the mode of bringing us to the pure platform of goodness. However, if one does not want to worship deities and one wants to depend completely on just chanting Harinam, they don't need second initiation. Second initiation is not a must. It is not required. One can go back to Godhead with Harinam. That's a fact as well. These are very good questions, Priyanka. Very, very nice questions. Yeah. Any other question? You could either put it on chat or you could speak up. unmute yourself.
Yeah, Prabhuji, you have mentioned like once we read Bhagavad Gita, then we will be able to understand Srimad properly. So, as I have not read Bhagavad Gita in depth, the way the senior devotees have read. So, if I read any canto or any chapters from Bhagavatam, so will I be able to understand that? Like, am I able to read Bhagavatam?
Okay, very good question. So the idea is that I'm not saying that you are prevented or precluded from reading Bhagavatam. You can read Srimad Bhagavatam independently as well. But if you want to do a structured study, I was just wanting to say that understanding the message of the Bhagavad Gita is super important. We generally tend to minimize it. We shouldn't. Krishna basically gives us clues on how to approach the Bhagavatam. That is the reason why I took the Bhagavad Gita up today. 4.9 of Bhagavad Gita, he is giving us clues saying the difference between me as God versus me as a person with personal attributes is what is required for you to reach me. That's a clue. Where was it found? It was found early on in 4.9 in Bhagavad Gita. Then he tells further down in Bhagavad Gita in the same chapter, 4.34, if you really want to understand Tattva, you need to go to someone who has seen the truth. Approach someone who has seen the truth. Pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya. He's asking us to approach a spiritual master. He's telling us what to do to get to know him as a person. So all these direction is being given in Bhagavad Gita. Now, similar aspects of direction is also given in Srimad Bhagavatam. But my point was, if you want to start a structured study of scripture, start with the Bhagavad Gita and understand Bhagavad Gita. And then through the Bhagavad Gita, you understand Bhagavatam as well. Do both. That was the point. It does not mean you are prevented from reading Srimad Bhagavatam or it will be limited in any way. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, very much.
Any other question or comment?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
It's not a question, but just a comment, just my understanding. Like Parikshit Maharaj, he know that he is going to actually leave his body in next 7 days. He has been given an opportunity to get introduced to Bhagavatam. But whereas in our case, we don't have that kind of option. We have a lot of options because of which we are confused in our life. So why we are given this much opportunities when God can limit our opportunities? Make sure that we go back to Him nicely, easily.
Well, forcing someone to love us is never going to be love. Giving them maximum freedom whilst teaching them how to love and whilst giving them an opportunity to love, that is the way it's properly done. So he has given us all the opportunity to be distracted. He says this in 15:15 of the Bhagavad Gita. He says, I will help you forget, I will help you remember. God even helps us forget. He also helps us saying, if you desire to forget me, I will help you forget. If you desire to remember me, I will help you remember. So he has given us maximum freedom, and then we need to make the choice to love him, because when love comes out of our own will and enthusiasm, that has a much better taste for him than us being forced to love him in certain circumstances. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
So in a way, we have to think like Parikshit Maharaj that tomorrow.
I used to add that we need to live that way. So the point I'm trying to make is that your points are very valid. It is important for us to understand, which is the great truth. The truth is that there's death all around. None of us expect to die. But Krishna is very clear. He's saying that even if you forget him, he will remember you if you're making an attempt to remember him. So we are not dealing with someone who is extraordinarily strict to such an extent that he is ready to constantly make our life miserable and make us forget him. He is going to give us all the help. Yeah, because the devotees are constantly worrying, saying, "Will I remember you at the time of death? When when I can't speak, when I can't breathe, when I can't function, will I remember you?" And he says, "Don't worry, I will remember you. You don't need to
Right.
remember me. You spend life remembering me, and I will remember you," which is a promise made by Krishna. You don't worry about remembering. So, which is so profound, actually.
Right. Haribol.
Haribol Prabhu. Anybody else? These questions are just very, very, very nice, very wonderful, very inspiring. This is also giving me a flavor of how to prepare for the next sessions, few sessions. I just wanted this session as a litmus test. I wanted to see how things are. So, very nice. Any other question or comment? We'll just give one more minute and then we can perhaps conclude. We'll just give one more minute for people to raise questions. So I think Mayapur, Madhava Prabhu, I don't see any more questions. So perhaps we want to just conclude. You could, if you have anything to say, or Christina, these are organizers.
So Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Thank you so much for your wonderful class, Prabhu. So I think we'll end it there. Apologies for the interruption. So next week we'll ensure that it's continuous and there's no breaks. So same time next week at 10:30 a.m. Christina, is there anything else you want to add?
No, just want to say I'm very sorry for any inconvenience for caused, and thank you so much for an amazing class, Shivandan Prabhu.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Fully appreciate this. It is said, I just want to end with this. It is said that you only receive a part of what you read, what you hear. You only receive a part of what you hear, and then you receive a little bit more when you are reading, but then the maximum amount of absorption comes when you are teaching. So this is a wonderful opportunity for me because you are making me go a lot deeper into different aspects of the Bhagavatam. So immersing myself in Srimad Bhagavatam in Vrindavan, this is a wonderful opportunity. So a lot of blessings can be had. So I'm grateful for giving, to all of you for giving me this opportunity. So thank you for your time today as well. Hare Krishna.